Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of high school DxD, and he wakes up as Hades with the record of Ragnarok summoning system. What is he gonna do inside of DxD?
Followed. Dalla pointed the procurement mark again. The audit continued. Near midnight, they found a chain of payments leading to a minor Aurea branch estate. The branch lord had purchased military contracts from a fallen broker while diverting maintenance money to hide the cost. The Patriarch's office had signed yearly summaries without inspecting the underlying accounts. Not innocence. Not the crime Kaito had imagined either. Kaito stared at the final column. My father did not know. He chose not to know, his queen said. That hurt more. Hades closed the ledger. The challenge remains. Kaito looked up. You still accept. The wager is legal. The hidden claim can be separated after the match. You could expose this now and destroy my family before we enter the first stage. Yes. Why not? Hades looked toward Dalla and Perrin. Because your family's humiliation does not repair a pump. Kaito followed his gaze. Perrin was asleep with his forehead against a stack of accounts. Dalla was explaining to Merrick that the Western Terrace needed a different valve than the one listed in every official plan. Hades continued. If I win, I inherit the problem. If you win, you keep it. Either way, someone has to understand it before the applause. Kaito's posture changed by a fraction. Then I want the audit attached to the wager. Selene looked up sharply. Publicly. Publicly. His queen studied him. Hades asked, do you understand what that does to your house? No. It was the first completely honest answer Kaito had given him. He pressed his seal beside the audit anyway. That is why I am doing it. The hidden siphon continued glowing beneath the paper. For the first time, it was no longer hidden. Chapter 13. The King Who Defied Tradition. The Rating Game Council objected to Hades' roster before it objected to the wager. A king and queen do not constitute a proper peerage, Councillor Vepar said. Hades set the published regulations on the table. Show me the minimum. Vepar turned 3 pages and found none. Tradition protects the dignity of the games. Then tradition may enter the arena and defeat me. The council tried another route, separate opening zones, restrictions on divine aura, and an inspection of Adam's queen piece. Hades accepted every rule that applied equally. He rejected clauses written only for him. Adjuka, attending through a projection, finally spoke. The mutation in the queen piece is stable. The faction is legal. The wager is ruinous, but ruinous choices are not forbidden. Kaito signed first. Hades placed his name beneath it. The contract ignited crimson and split into matching seals that sank into both kings' hands. Outside, reporters shouted questions about his incomplete peerage. Why defy the structure that made rating games possible? One called. Hades paused on the council steps. A structure should reveal strength, not conceal weakness behind numbers. Councillor Vepar called the chamber to order 3 times before the spectators stopped whispering. The published roster sat between the council and Hades, its blank spaces treated as if they were evidence of a crime. A rating game is a contest between peerages, Vepar said, not a private duel decorated with a title. Hades turned the rulebook toward him. Then cite the number of pieces required. Vepar's fingers paused on the page. He found language about balance, custom, and dignity. He found no minimum. Across the room, Kaito shifted in his seat. He had expected the council to protect tradition. Instead, every argument forced the officials to admit that House Aurea's challenge had been written for a 2-member opponent. We can add a restriction to the match, said another counselor. Divine aura may not cross the opening boundary. For every participant. For Hades. Adam laughed once. The sound broke the chamber's polite surface. Hades rejected the clause and accepted the next three because they applied to both sides. He permitted inspections of the queen piece, but required the council to record the result publicly. He accepted separate opening zones, then asked whether House Aurea would accept the same distance. Kaito stood. You are turning every safeguard into a debate. Because you brought a contract, not a duel. Outside, the reporters asked whether Hades had humiliated the council. He faced the nearest crystal. A rule that survives questions is stronger than a rule protected from them. Adam followed him down the steps. You enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching the weak argument run out of road. Behind them, Kaito emerged into the crowd with the wager formally accepted. The applause no longer sounded like curiosity. It sounded like people buying seats for a fall. Adam wanted to reward the choice. Hades instead gave its maker the authority to repeat it, including the authority to stop when repetition became dangerous. The hearing in the workers' yard had 12 chairs and only 11 people. The missing chair belonged to the worker whose name had been removed from the first account after a worker collapsed from exhaustion and made the officials wait for the truth. Hades placed a bent stretcher brace on the empty seat. The gesture angered the oldest delegate, who demanded that a symbol not be mistaken for evidence. The council hearing continued after the reporters left. That was when the useful arguments began. Councillor Vepar removed the ceremonial sash that marked him as chair and dropped it on the table with open irritation. You have turned one qualification dispute into a referendum on the entire game structure. Hades remained seated. No, you did that when you defended a rule that was not written. Ajuka's projection flickered faintly. Several councillors looked toward him, hoping the Satane-level intellect would rescue tradition from grammar. Ajuka did not. The king is correct. Vepar looked betrayed. Ajuka continued. The regulations permit a registered king to enter with any legal subset of the peerage. The custom of full boards exists because it is strategically common, not because it is mandatory. Then the rule should be amended. Hades said, for everyone. Vepar hesitated. Adam, standing behind Hades, smiled. There was the knife. If the council created a minimum roster rule now, it would affect old houses with injured pieces, unusual formations, or deliberately small teams. If they wrote the rule only for Hades, the discrimination would become public. Ajuka said, any amendment will follow ordinary review. Vepar sat back. Fine. The council moved to divine aura. This argument was better. Hades' raw pressure could disable weaker pieces before a fight properly began. Several kings had complained that this defeated the spirit of rating games. Hades did not dismiss them. What restriction do you propose? A counselor named Agars leaned forward. A field cap. Measured how? Output. Whose instrument? The counselor stopped. Ajuka looked interested. Hades continued. If the instrument measures devil mana, it will undercount divine pressure. If it measures environmental effect, an illusionist may appear weaker than a brute. If it measures damage potential, every king with a specialized sacred gear becomes a separate category. Vepar rubbed his forehead. Adam leaned toward Merek. He likes this. Merek whispered, do not encourage him. Agar said, then what do you propose? Hades looked at the match regulations. Behavioral restriction. The room quieted. No passive aura discharge above the threshold required to maintain the user's body and active techniques before the opening signal. Any deliberate pressure intended to incapacitate pieces outside declared combat counts as an attack. Adjuka's projection brightened slightly. That is measurable through sequence, not species. Yes. Vepar looked at Hades suspiciously. You are proposing a rule that limits you. I am proposing a rule I can understand before entering the arena. Adam nodded. That is his favorite kind. The council recorded it for review. Then came Adam. Not his power. His person. One councillor objected to the queen piece because Adam was male. Adam stared. Hades looked at the rulebook. Is sex listed as a role condition? No. Then next objection. The councillor reddened. It violates symbolism. Adam raised a hand. Can I ask something? Vepar looked uncertain. Adjuka said, proceed. Adam smiled. If the queen is the most versatile piece, why would you intentionally make the title less versatile? Silence. Merek looked down quickly. Hades did not smile. He wanted to. The objection died. The last issue was more serious. Peace autonomy. Rumors had spread that Hades allowed Adam to refuse orders. Vepar placed the copied household rule on the table. Is this authentic? Yes. You permit insubordination. I permit refusal. In a battle, hesitation can kill an entire peerage. So can obedience. The room changed. Every king, their new examples. Bad orders. Pride. Pieces sacrificed, because the king could not admit a formation had failed. No one liked the subject. Hades continued. A peerage is strongest when authority is clear. That does not require making judgment illegal. Agar said, you would let a pawn reject a king's command in the middle of a match. If the pawn believes the order will produce unnecessary death, yes. And if the pawn is wrong, then we survive the mistake if possible and review it afterward. Vepar laughed without humor. You govern like failure is inevitable. It is. The answer silenced the room. Hades looked around the council. The question is whether failure becomes information or tradition. Adjuka's projection remained still. Then he said, I want a copy of the refusal clause. Vepar turned. For research. Adam whispered, everyone says that when they want to steal an idea. Adjuka's eyes shifted toward him. I heard that. Adam smiled. Good. The hearing ended 3 hours later. No grand victory. The wager remained legal. The two-person peerage remained legal. Several proposed restrictions entered formal review. Hades left with more rules around him than when he arrived. He considered that acceptable because the rules had names, definitions, and procedures for challenge. Outside, workers from the council building were clearing chairs. One older porter nearly dropped a stack. Adam caught it. The man stared at him. Queen Adam. Adam is fine. The porter looked toward Hades. You really let him say that? Hades looked confused. His name. The porter laughed. No, my lord, anything. Adam shifted the chairs. Within reason. Hades said, he has a broad definition. They carried the chairs together. A reporter watching from the steps captured the image. By evening, the underworld had 3 competing headlines. Hades humiliates council. Council bends to divine king. Independent king proposes new peerage limits. None were accurate. Sona Sitri's private note was closer. He does not reject systems. He forces them to state what they are doing. Hades never saw the note. He did see the next challenge file waiting at the shrine. 5 stages. House Aurea. Mana Pool. A hidden 6th battlefield beneath the paperwork. He placed the council record beside it. Adam dropped an apple on the map. Merrick sighed. The argument about tradition was finished for the day. The argument about consequences was about to become physical. Chapter 14. Terms of the Challenge. The 5-stage map unfolded above Hades' war table. Forest, drowned fortress, volcanic ridge, city maze, and a final throne field. Each stage allowed a retreat window. Territory captured in one carried advantages into the next. Kaito had designed the format to exhaust 2 combatants. He wants us to spend strength clearing pawns while he preserves his king, Merrick said. Adam rolled an apple across the projected forest. Or he wants 5 chances to discover that 2 is enough. We could break him in the first field, Adam said. We could. Instead, we will learn what House Aurea is hiding around the pool. The production ledgers showed unexplained losses. Someone had been drawing mana through an old contract beneath the estate, winning the resource without understanding that claim could deliver a poisoned prize. Hades instructed the referee on his staff to file a discovery demand while the game proceeded. The contest would be battle and investigation at once. Adam caught the apple before it rolled off the table, so we let the boy think he has time. We let his family reveal what they believe they are protecting. The 5 battlefields remained suspended above the war table while Hades studied the production ledgers. Forest, drowned fortress, volcanic ridge, city maze, final throne field. Kaito had designed the map to reward a conventional peerage that could replace losses between stages. Adam rolled an apple from the forest to the drowned fortress. He expects us to spend ourselves clearing objectives. He expects the map to make the choice for us. Hades moved a marker beneath the fortress. The hidden mana withdrawals converged there. A second marker went beneath the city maze. Merrick leaned closer, 2 siphon points. And 1 family has had access to the board before the match begins. You are making the match an investigation, she said. Someone already did. We are deciding whether to notice. She opened the box. The drowned fortress had a lower chapel omitted from the public map. The chamber connected to the same fallen-like compact hidden in the mana pool deed. Adam's expression hardened. If it activates during the game, both sides are targets. Then the first objective is not the one Kaito advertised, Hades said. If we conceal it, the people who built the trap keep choosing the price. She closed the plans. I will give you 1 chance to prove you are not using the investigation to take everything. That is 1 more chance than your family gave itself. Adam bit into his apple. The crunch sounded loud in the quiet room, but no one laughed. The match would be fought on 5 fields. The hidden 6th belonged to whoever had been stealing beneath them. Adam saw the map and suggested a training exercise. Hades changed the exercise so the trainees had to carry someone who could not keep up, then made the fastest fighter take the heaviest burden. Adam asked whether Hades ever wanted a simple victory. Hades said he wanted victories that did not require the house to forget what they cost. Hades returned to the lower shrine passage after midnight because a messenger arrived carrying a threat written in a dead family's hand. He followed the trace around a key with no matching lock, past a locked cabinet and a wall where the dust had been disturbed recently. Adam wanted to break the cabinet open. Hades asked who would be blamed if the contents were destroyed beside the courier shelter. That question brought Merrick from the corridor with a key and a face that said he had already guessed the answer, beside the courier shelter. Chapter 15. Adam takes the field. At the public exhibition before the wager, Kaito demanded proof that Adam could fight under the new restrictions. Corvin vanished in a burst of speed. His blade arrived at Adam's neck from behind. Adam tilted his head. Steel passed through a strand of blonde hair. He copied the knight's step, appeared at Corvin's shoulder, and tapped 2 fingers against his breastplate. Corvin flew out of the circle and landed upright only because Adam had corrected his balance at the last instant. The crowd laughed. Corvin did not. He bowed. Again, Kaito ordered. Adam returned to Hades and accepted the apple waiting in his hand. He is going to make his people pay for his embarrassment. Then remember which of them chose this. The distinction mattered. Hades intended to defeat House Auria's peerage, not punish soldiers for their king's pride. Corvin left the practice circle with a bruised shoulder and a bow that was deeper than his first one. Kaito watched him go as if the loss belonged personally to the house. He was touched once. He was spared once. Adam returned to Hades, carrying the knight's dropped blade. He offered it to the referee rather than keeping it. Your soldier corrected his footing before he hit the wall, Hades said. He has discipline. Kaito's jaw tightened. You are praising a man who lost. I am identifying a man who can learn. Corvin returned from the medical tent long enough to face Kaito. My lord, the condition was first strike. We received it. Kaito stared at him, then looked toward Hades. You have made them comfortable with losing. No, I have made them certain that losing does not require them to become cruel. Hades handed the blade back to Corvin. Keep it. Your king may need someone near him who remembers what a condition means. Adam peeled another apple. He will make the full match ugly. Then we will make our choices where everyone can see them. The public exhibition had been intended to show a weakness. Instead, it showed House Auria that Adam could win without taking a life, and that Hades would remember the difference. Corvin asked Adam for a second match after the crowd left. Not immediately. He waited until Kaito had gone, until the broadcast crystals dimmed, until the practice court belonged only to workers collecting broken markers and a referee trying to finish paperwork before dinner. Adam was halfway through an apple. You already lost, he said. Corvin bowed. I know. That is refreshing. I want to know when. Adam stopped chewing. Corvin touched the bruise beneath his armor. I know where you struck me. I know how. I do not know when the fight stopped being mine. Hades heard the question from the edge of the court and stayed where he was. Adam tossed the apple core into a waste basket. Again. Corvin drew. The second exchange lasted longer because he was not trying to impress Kaito. Adam did not copy his first step. He let Corvin complete it. The knight crossed behind him, changed levels, and used the flat of his blade to test the distance rather than committing to the neck. Adam moved half a foot. Corvin followed. 2 strikes. 3. The fourth nearly touched Adam's shoulder. The knight's eyes widened. Then Adam caught his wrist. Now. Corvin froze. What changed? You stopped fighting the person watching. Corvin's jaw tightened. Adam released him. Again. By the 7th exchange, the workers had stopped pretending not to watch. Kaito's queen returned at some point and stood beneath the archway with her arms folded. Hades noticed her before Corvin did. Adam noticed both. The 8th exchange ended with Corvin on one knee, but this time he knew why. I committed when you gave ground. Yes. I thought retreat meant uncertainty. Most people do. Corvin stood. Adam picked up another apple from the bag beside the court. Do you know why Hades is dangerous? Corvin looked toward the king. Because he is stronger than us. No. Adam bit into the fruit. Because he does not need you to think he is. The queen stepped onto the floor. Kaito needs to hear that. Then tell him. He will hear criticism. That is his hobby. Corvin almost smiled. Hades finally approached. The workers returned to clearing markers, disappointed that the educational violence seemed finished. Kaito will use the full peerage in the first stage, the queen said. I know, Hades replied. He intends to separate you and Adam. I know. He believes Adam's restraint means he can force him to choose between a civilian objective and protecting you. Adam looked amused. That one is almost good. She stared at him. Almost. It assumes Hades needs protecting. Hades ignored that. What does Kaito protect? The queen's expression hardened. His image. No, that is what he performs. What does he protect when no one important is looking? She did not answer immediately. Corvin did. Us. The queen turned. Corvin continued, quieter. He gets angry. He gives bad orders. But when my sister was sick, he paid the healer without telling his father. When our pawn lost a hand in training, he broke the instructor's contract. He does not know how to be responsible without making it look like pride. Hades absorbed the information. Adam said, that sounds exhausting. It is. The queen's shoulders lowered by a fraction. Hades looked at her. Then the match should give him a chance to choose correctly where everyone can see it. She frowned. You are planning to teach him. No, I am planning to defeat him. Learning is his responsibility. That answer seemed to satisfy her more. Before leaving, Corvin placed his blade on the edge of the court. I want this checked. The referee looked confused. For what? Any external mark, any hidden command, anything that makes my movement belong to someone who is not me. Kaito's queen stared at him. Corvin did not look away. The exhibition was supposed to prove Adam could be controlled by conditions, he said. It proved I had never checked my own. The referee took the weapon. Adam watched him go. You did that, the queen told Hades. No. You made him suspicious of his own house. I made the rules visible. Suspicion was already there. She left before he could say more. That evening, Adam found Hades in the war room placing small markers across the 5-stage map. Corvin is not going to attack the same way now. Good. Kaito's queen will change formation. Good. You keep improving the people trying to beat us. Hades moved one marker. An enemy who can only lose the same way teaches nothing. Adam sat on the table. You know, most kings prefer easier matches. Most kings are training for rankings. And you. Hades looked at the mana pool documents stacked beside the battlefield map, at the fallen light traces, at the names of workers whose future might change with one wager. I am training a government. Adam was quiet for a moment. Then he stole one of Hades' markers and moved it into the forest stage. Your left route is bad. Hades looked at him. Explain. Adam did. They argued until midnight. Across the estate, Corvin's blade sat beneath a registry crystal, while a technician discovered a hair-thin command mark hidden under the grip. It had been placed there years ago. The knight had never known. By dawn, the report was on Kaito's desk. He read it alone. Then he ordered every weapon in his peerage inspected. Chapter 16. The young lord learns fear. Kaito presented the mana pool deed beneath a hall of broadcast crystals. This resource has served House Aurea for 4 centuries, he announced. When I win, Hades' holding and rank will prove that old blood still governs the underworld. Hades stepped onto the signing platform. The mana rising from the deed felt deep, cold, and slightly wrong. A second pulse hid beneath House Aurea's crest. There is another claim on it, he said. The patriarch's representatives went still. Kaito looked toward them, confused for a fraction of a second. Hades let a thread of divine aura touch the buried contract. Something on the other end pulled back. Fallen light left a metallic sting in the air. Your family wagered a resource it does not fully control. Kaito raised his chin, afraid of the terms. Hades released enough pressure to crack the signing platform beneath Kaito's boots. The young lord's face drained of color before pride forced it back. I am giving you the chance to understand them. Kaito signed anyway. The signing hall fell silent after the buried contract answered Hades' aura. The mana pool's deed continued glowing between the two kings, but the room had stopped looking at it as property. Kaito's father was represented by 3 officials, none of whom met Hades' eyes. The compact is a historical service agreement, the eldest said. It does not invalidate the wager. I did not say it invalidated the wager, Hades replied. I said it has a claimant. The official's seal flickered. Hades saw the channel beneath it, a fallen angel broker receiving a fixed portion of the pool before the water reached House Auria's terraces. The agreement had been concealed from the rating game authority, which made its legal position weaker than its magical one. Kaito looked at the representatives. You told me the deed was clean. Your family believed it was clean. That is not an answer. Sign only if you understand what victory would require. Kaito turned toward him. You want me to withdraw? I want you to stop mistaking an insult for a strategy. The young lord's pride recovered, but it no longer filled the room. He signed with a shaking hand. Hades signed after the referee recorded the concealed claim and the obligation to litigate it after victory. When the broadcast ended, the patriarch's representatives began arguing over who had authorized the hidden compact. Kaito remained at the platform, staring at his own signature. He looked at me like I was a child. He looked at you like a man who had just signed something dangerous. Hades left them to the argument. The wager had become larger than Kaito's pride, but it had not yet become larger than his responsibility. Chapter 17. The Weight of the Wager. Kaito's queen found him in the records room after the second day of the match. The mana pool accounts lay open between them, and every line made the wager harder to pretend was only a contest of pride. Read the column, she said. I know what it says. You know what the total says. Read what it feeds. She pointed to the first line, barrier maintenance. The second named the children's ward. The third listed the workers who had been paid in mana because House Auria's coin reserves were already pledged to marriage contracts. Kaito's face tightened. If we win, the pool stays with us. If we lose, those people do not vanish from the page. They become a problem Hades inherits, and your father will call their suffering proof that the wager should never have been accepted. Kaito closed the ledger. My father already thinks I am ornamental. Then defeat him by becoming responsible, not by making everyone else gamble with you. I will fight, she said. I will not praise the decision. Kaito fastened his cloak. If I apologize now, Hades will see weakness. He already sees the truth. The question is whether you do. You added the liabilities. Someone had to. Kaito heard him. Do not mistake disclosure for surrender. I do not, Hades said. It is the first useful thing you have done for the people you claim to represent. Kaito did not return the ledger to the shelf. He carried it to the mana pool. His queen followed without asking permission. The path descended through old stone terraces where the family crest appeared on every third arch. At night, the pool looked cleaner than the accounts suggested. Blue mana lit the water from below, hiding rusted pipes and cracked retaining walls beneath a beautiful surface. Kaito stopped at the children's ward. The barrier was active. Thin but active. You knew this was here, his queen said. I knew the building. That is not the same. A healer opened the door before they could knock. She recognized Kaito and immediately bowed. He hated the motion. Do not. The healer froze halfway down. My lord. Stand. She did. It did not make the room less awkward. Inside, 6 children slept beneath low barrier lamps. 2 had devil wings too small to fold properly. 1 had a bandaged horn. Another held a wooden hawk painted in House Oria's silver colors. Kaito stared at the toy. The healer noticed. His father works the lower pumps. How long has the barrier been on reduced cycle? Her expression changed. 3 years. The ledger says 8 months. Then the ledger is lying. No hesitation. Kaito almost laughed. Everyone in the council chambers softened bad news until it could survive noble ears. The healer had apparently decided children were more important than his dignity. How much mana do you need? To restore full coverage, 7% more than the current allotment. Take it. She did not move. What? From where? Kaito opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The pool's output was pledged to estate barriers, workshops, political agreements, tournament facilities, old debts, newer debts, and the hidden siphon one had admitted existed until Hades forced the ink into the light. Exactly, the healer said. His queen looked away to hide something that might have been approval. Kaito sat in the empty chair beside the nearest bed. I wagered the pool. The healer's face went still. I heard. If I lose, Hades inherits this ward. If the contract names the ward. It does now. The healer looked at him sharply. Kaito opened the ledger to the amended liabilities. I added it. She read. The silence that followed felt different from the silences in his father's study. No one here cared whether he looked strong. Why? Kaito stared at the sleeping child, holding the wooden hawk. Because I should have known it existed before I wagered it. The healer closed the book. That is not an answer that fixes anything. No. Good. He looked at her. Kings like answers that sound finished, she said. Children do not care. Kaito remained there another hour. He learned the names of the pumps feeding the ward. He learned that one of his father's political banquets used more mana in a night than the children's barrier used in a month. He learned that the Western estates had been charging families for emergency healing even when the mana had already been allocated from the pool. When he left, dawn was beginning to lighten the horizon. His queen walked beside him. You still intend to fight? Yes. You still intend to win? Yes. Good. He looked at her. She shrugged. I did not ask you to become harmless. I asked you to become responsible. They reached the upper terrace. A messenger waited there with Hades' seal. Kaito's hand went to his sword before he saw that the messenger carried no weapon. The letter contained one sentence. The children's ward has been added to the protected transfer schedule. Confirm the current barrier requirement before the match begins. Kaito read it twice. His queen read over his shoulder. He knew. He audited the liabilities. He knew you would come here. Kaito folded the paper. No, he knew someone should. That irritated him more. At breakfast, he placed the children's barrier figures in front of his father. The patriarch looked at them as though someone had served him a repair invoice with his tea. What is this? A cost of the mana pool. It is an operating detail. It is a ward with children inside. His father sighed. Kaito, if you begin governing by the face attached to every number, You will never make a difficult decision. Kaito heard Hades' voice in his memory. Who pays? He looked at his father. Then perhaps difficult decisions should know the faces. The patriarch put down his cup. You are becoming sentimental. No. Kite surprised himself with how calm the answer felt. I am becoming expensive. His father frowned. Kaito slid the ledger across the table. The ward returns to full cycle today. Cancel the reception at the Eastern Arena. The reception is politically necessary. The children are physically necessary. You do not command this house. Not yet. The room went very still. Kaito stood. He had not planned to say it. That was why the words mattered. The wager with Hades was no longer only about rank. If Kaito lost, he would have to decide what kind of man remained after the audience stopped laughing. If he won, he would have to decide whether victory meant preserving the same machinery that had made the pool valuable and the people around it invisible. Both possibilities frightened him. For once, fear did not make him reach for a larger performance. He went to the training court. His queen was already there. Corvin had removed the old command mark from his blade and was relearning his grip without it. Kaito drew his sword. Again, he said. Corvin looked at him carefully. Same formation. Kaito thought of the ward, the workers, the hidden siphon, and the 5-stage battlefield waiting to turn every bad habit into public evidence. No. He lowered the weapon. Show me the formation you would choose if I were not watching. For the first time, his peerage hesitated because the order gave them freedom instead of taking it. Then the queen stepped forward and moved the first marker. Kaito letter. Chapter 18. Hades accepts. The final contract waited between the two kings. Hades' legal advisor had confirmed the hidden compact would not transfer automatically. The fallen angels held a siphoning claim, not ownership. Victory would give Hades standing to sever it. Your shrine, mineral rights, and ranking credit, the judge recited, against House Auria's mana pool and associated territory. Adam stood behind Hades, unusually serious. The people at home know. I told them before we came. Anyone who wished to leave received coin and transport. How many left? None. Adam's shoulders eased. Hades pressed his bloody thumb to the contract. Crimson fire consumed the page and branded the wager into the game barrier. Kaito signed across from him. Applause rolled through the chamber. You could still withdraw, Hades said quietly. I would take the cost of preparations, not your pool. Kaito heard mercy as insult. Save your concern for your servants. Hades withdrew his hand. I have. That is why I offered once. The judge raised the opening key. The first battlefield would form in 2 days. The final contract was read in a chamber built for public promises. Every sentence rose into the broadcast crystals and returned as an echo beneath the ceiling. When the judge reached the hidden compact, Hades interrupted. Add the claim to the official record. The Auria representatives objected. Kaito did not. Add it, he said. Hades studied the young lord. You understand that this gives your family another way to lose. I understand that hiding it gives us no way to win cleanly. Adam's shoulders eased behind Hades. The people at the shrine had been told about the wager. None had left. Hades confirmed the same choice with the estate workers before returning to the table. The contract sealed beneath his thumb. Crimson fire ran through the page and stopped at the line naming the pool's workers as protected parties. Kaito signed after him. Applause broke out, but it sounded uncertain. The crowd had expected a simple contest over a rare resource. Instead, the kings had placed a list of obligations inside the wager where millions could read it. In the transition room, Kaito said, you could have used the liabilities against us. I still may. Then why include them? Because victory over a lie leaves the lie alive. Kaito looked through the glass at the forming battlefield. Do you think I am a liar? I think you have allowed people to lie for you. The opening key turned. Forest filled the arena. Adam rolled his shoulders while Hades checked the copied contract chain one last time. If we find the siphon during the match, Adam said, we stop it. We stop it without giving House Aurea an excuse to call our restraint weakness. Adam grinned. That sounds harder than winning. It is why we are doing both. Kite wanted to close the gate. Hades left it open under guard, because an open gate could reveal whether the next visitor came with a weapon or a reason. Chapter 19. The Wager Turns. On the eve of the match, the underworld expected frantic preparation from a two-man peerage. It found Hades in the library repairing a boundary map with archival tape. Adam lay beneath the table, an apple in one hand and Kaito's battle record in the other. His queen changes the formation every time he gets angry, Adam said. She is protecting him from his own orders. Do we remove her first? Hades considered the map. No, she is the only person likely to surrender before her pieces are injured. Break the formation around her and let her choose. Adam sat up. For us. For him, Hades said. The modification bore the signature of the Hidden Fallen Compact. Its holders wanted both factions weakened, whichever one won. He sent the evidence to the judges and kept a copy. Then he changed their route through the second stage. At House Aurea, Kaito learned the judges had discovered the sabotage. His allies began denying involvement before he accused them. Hades found Adam beneath the library table with an apple, 3 battle records, and a strip of archival tape stuck to his sleeve. You are repairing the map upside down, Adam said. The map is upside down. Adam sat up. Kaito knows. Not yet. Hades sent the evidence to the judges, then sealed a second copy in the estate vault. He changed their planned route through the fortress without telling House Aurea. Only if the judges decide evidence is cheating. The saboteur wants you angry, she said. The saboteur wants Hades to win. The saboteur wants the pool weakened. Those are different objectives. Her words reached him slowly. Kaito dismissed the advisors and ordered the peerage to inspect their own equipment instead of preparing a speech for the broadcast. At the shrine, Adam carried the altered map to Hades' desk. You are not practicing. We know what we can do. That makes you sound confident. No, it makes me unwilling to confuse repetition with preparation. Adam considered the answer, then drew a second route through the fortress with a piece of charcoal. It crossed the lowest chapel, where the hidden contract was likely anchored. The night before the match, Kaito's supporters filled the broadcast halls with predictions. Hades gave no interview. His silence was not a pose. He was listening to the water beneath a battlefield that had not yet opened. Chapter 20. The match opens. The first stage opened beneath a green sky. The forest stage opened under a green sky, and the public expected the two-member peerage to charge the center. Hades and Adam began on opposite sides of the ravine because the opening rules forbade contact. The first blast buried Hades in smoke. The audience roared. Kaito raised his weapon. Hades stepped out of the smoke with the shaft of his bident resting against the nearest sigil. You placed these to herd me, he said through the broadcast. Kaito's face tightened. They are to control the field. Then control it. Hades pressed the bident down. The sigils activated together, not against him, but against the hidden current beneath the soil. A black line flashed between the roots and vanished. On the other side of the forest, Adam met 4 knights. He let them surround him, copied the rhythm of their footwork, and turned their formation inward. The knights collided without a lethal blow. Adam caught the last one before he fell and set him against a tree. Stay down until your healer arrives. You knew the stage was altered, he said, in the transition chamber. I knew someone wanted us to fight the wrong battle. The drowned fortress formed around them. Water rose through the lower halls, carrying a thin, metallic glare. Hades felt the concealed contract wake beneath the map. Adam joined him at the stairwell. Now we find the hand under the board. Now we see whether he is willing to stop being our enemy for 1 minute. The forest did not stay quiet after the first exchange. Kaito had seeded the southern ridge with hidden observation crystals, not weapons. Hades found the first beneath a root because the mana around it bent away from his aura instead of toward him. He did not break it. Someone is watching the wrong problem, he said. Adam's voice came through the communication link from the far side of the ravine. Kaito. Everyone. Hades left the crystal where it was and changed his route. The obvious objective stood at the center of the forest, a stone tower carrying House Auria's crest. Capturing it would open the transition gate and award the first territorial advantage. Every visible path toward it had been trapped with binding sigils, illusion screens, or pressure mines. Hades walked away from it. The audience reacted before Kaito did. The broadcast commentators began speculating that he had lost the objective marker. One called the movement cautious. Another called it an attempt to draw Kaito out. Kaito's voice cut across the field. Running. Hades stepped over a black root where the hidden current pulsed beneath the soil. No. He drove the butt of the bident into the ground. The earth answered with a dull metallic note. The concealed line beneath the forest lit for half a second. Kaito went silent. Adam heard it too. That is not part of the arena. No. 4 Auria knights closed on Adam near the eastern slope. They had been trained to force him toward the tower objective and away from the riverbed. Adam let them think the plan worked until the last one committed to the formation. Then he stepped through the gap they had created themselves. The first knight struck high. Adam copied the reinforcement pattern and redirected the blade into a tree. The second tried to pin his leg with a gravity mark. Adam stepped onto the mark before it activated and used its own pull to drag the third knight off balance. The fourth did not attack. Corvin. Adam stopped. Corvin's sword remained low. The current, he said. Adam glanced toward the soil. You see it. I feel it through the blade. The knight looked toward the tower. The stage plans did not include that line. Adam could have retired him before the sentence finished. He did not. Then what are you going to do? Corvin's jaw tightened. His king's order came through the team channel. Push him to the tower. Corvin looked at Adam. Adam looked back. The other 3 knights were recovering around them. Corvin raised his sword. Then he turned and cut the nearest observation crystal out of the tree. The broadcast exploded with noise. Kaito shouted his name. Corvin ignored him. The crystal is feeding the current. Hades heard the admission through Adam's link. He moved faster. The hidden line ran from the tower objective to 6 buried anchors around the forest. The arena's official binding network had been built over it, concealing the foreign magic beneath legal structure. Whoever designed the sabotage expected both teams to activate the system through normal play. Hades reached the first anchor. It carried no Auria crest. A thread of fallen light ran beneath the devil script. He could sever it. He did not. Adam. I see 3 more. Do not break them. Kaito broke into the channel. You do not command my field. Hades looked toward the tower. even though the young lord was somewhere beyond the trees. Then command it. Kaito's answer came as an attack. Silver hawks tore through the canopy. They were not the full flock he would later use on the volcanic ridge, but the shapes carried enough force to drive Hades away from the anchor. Hades stepped into them. His aura broke the first three. He caught the fourth on the shaft of his bident and turned it into the fifth. The remaining birds scattered. He did not advance on Kaito. He pointed at the glowing line. Your battlefield is carrying someone else's weapon. For several seconds, the match forgot it was supposed to be entertainment. Then Kaito appeared on the ridge. His queen landed beside him. Corvin stood below with Adam and the other knights. The tower objective remained untouched between them. Kaito stared at the exposed anchor. You placed that? No. You had access to the inspection. So did your family. The accusation landed badly. Kaito's queen stepped between them. Enough, we tested. Kaito looked at her. She looked back. The audience could see everything. That was the difference now. Kaito could order her to continue the match. He could accuse Hades of sabotage. He could pretend the current was a harmless feature and force everyone back into the script. Instead, he said, test it. Seleni's inspection spell came through the referee network a moment later. The stage dimmed around the anchor while the official system separated registered arena magic from foreign residue. Red for the game barrier. Gold for Auria's field marks. White beneath both. Fallen light. Kaito went still. The referee's voice echoed over the forest. Unregistered magical infrastructure detected. Stage remains active pending hazard classification. The crowd began shouting. Hades looked toward the tower. The objective can wait. Kaito's pride fought him visibly. Then Corvin spoke. My lord. Kaito closed his eyes. When he opened them, he pointed away from the objective. All Aurea pieces withdraw 50 paces from the tower. The queen obeyed first. The others followed. Adam looked at Hades. That is new. Yes. Together, both teams traced the hidden current. It ran deeper than the forest. The final anchor vanished beneath the riverbank and continued toward the drowned fortress waiting as the next stage. The sabotage had been built across multiple battlefields. The judges halted the scoring clock but did not end the match. It was an unprecedented compromise, and every official on the panel looked unhappy enough to prove no one had planned it. The forest became an investigation site. Hades knelt beside the riverbank. Adam stood behind him, while Corvin and Kaito's queen watched the perimeter. Kaito approached last. You knew there was something wrong with the pool before the match. Yes. You knew there might be sabotage. Yes. You still accepted. Yes. Kaito's voice lowered. Why? Hades looked at the white line disappearing into the earth. Because whoever built this expected us to care more about beating each other than understanding what we were standing on. Kaito said nothing. Across the forest, spectators who had paid for a battle watched workers mark dangerous routes with plain yellow flags. No one cheered. Hades found the silence useful. When the officials finally allowed the stage to resume, the tower still stood untouched. Kaito looked at it. So we finish the objective. Yes. No tricks. Only the ones you brought. That almost earned a smile. Almost. Kaito raised his sword. Adam returned to the eastern path. The referee restarted the clock. This time, both kings knew the forest had more than one enemy inside it. Chapter 21. The Chapel Beneath the Stage. Holy water climbed the fortress stairs, smoking where it touched devil magic. The objective is above us, Adam said, following. The hand controlling the water is below. They reached a submerged chapel where a fallen light seal pulsed beneath the floor. 3 masked intruders guarded it outside the registered roster. The game barrier failed to recognize them. One hurled a spear of light at Adam. He watched its construction, twisted aside, and returned a copied lance that pinned the attacker's cloak to the wall without touching flesh. Hades split the seal with his bident. The backlash blew water from the chamber and exposed an old contract chain leading beyond the arena. Your family invited them, Hades said. I did not. I believe you. Decide whether that matters more than defeating me. For one exchange, both peerages fought the same enemy. When the last intruder escaped through the contract chain, the judges halted the stage. Kaito demanded the match continue. Kaito stared at the chain beneath the chapel floor. It ran from the old Aurea seal toward the same hidden compact named in the mana pool deed. The intruders had not come to help House Aurea win. They had come to make the resource unusable. The judges halted the stage. The audience, expecting another display of Hades' dominance, instead watched both kings fight over evidence that could ruin them equally. When the last masked figure escaped through the chain, Kaito demanded the match continue. You want to continue with a compromised field? Hades asked. I want the result to belong to us. Then tell the judges what you saw. Kaito did. His voice shook once, but he named the Aurea crest, the hidden route, and the officials who had signed the stage plans. The admission cost him in the broadcast and saved the contest from being buried as a technical dispute. The stage dissolved around them. Hades and Kaito stood on opposite sides of the ruined chapel, no longer allies, but no longer pretending the other was the only enemy. The judges wanted the chapel sealed. Hades refused. Not because he intended to preserve the battlefield, because sealing it before the evidence was recorded would leave the people who had built the hidden compact free to describe the room later. Kaito surprised everyone by agreeing. The drowned fortress remained suspended inside the rating game barrier, while engineers lowered the water level one chamber at a time. The audience feed had been cut from the chapel, but the official record crystals continued to run. Adam stood ankle-deep in cold water beside one of the captured intruders. The man had removed his mask. He was younger than Hades expected. Not a veteran assassin, not a zealot. A frightened fallen devil hybrid with one damaged wing and a contract mark burned around his throat. Kaito's queen examined the mark. Compulsion. The prisoner laughed. Everything is compulsion if the person with the sword dislikes the answer. Adam crouched in front of him. Can you refuse the next order? The man looked away. That was answer enough. Beelzebub did not exist in the household yet. They had no specialist for soul contracts. Selene brought in 2 neutral curse examiners from the game authority. One refused to touch the mark after seeing the fallen light residue. The other said, it is designed to collapse if the holder names the employer. Kaito swore. Hades asked, can it be separated from the throat? Not safely. Can it be made safe enough to speak? The examiner hesitated. Perhaps if the contract believes the answer is not voluntary. Adam stood. No. Everyone looked at him. We are not forcing him to speak, so the contract thinks he had no choice. Kaito's patience snapped. They tried to destroy the pool. Adam turned. And they are enemies. Yes. Then why are you protecting him? I am protecting the difference between information and torture. Kaito's face hardened. Hades watched the exchange. Then he said, Adam is correct. Kaito looked at him as if betrayed. We need the name. We need evidence we can use after the name is challenged. The prisoner stared at Hades. You think anyone will believe me? No. That honesty made him blink. Hades continued. That is why the room matters. He ordered the contract mark documented from every angle. The examiners recorded its structure. Kaito's queen identified the Aurea seal hidden beneath the fallen script. Selene certified that the prisoner had been captured outside the registered roster. Only after the facts existed without his testimony did Hades ask the man his name. Soren. Who owns the mark? Soren's throat lit white. He screamed before the answer formed. Adam caught him as he folded. The mark tightened. Hades felt the mechanism reach for the soul beneath it. Stop. The examiners froze. Kaito moved forward. He almost said it. That is why we stop. Soren coughed blood into the water. The contract relaxed. For the next 10 minutes, no one spoke. Then Kaito's queen noticed the clasp on Soren's damaged wing. It bore a maker's mark. Not a name. A workshop. The same charity-backed guild that had purchased the roofing debt near Hades' shrine. Merek had sent copies of the earlier evidence with Selene before the match. The connection locked into place. They no longer needed Soren to name the employer. Kaito stared at the clasp. You used the same supplier. Soren looked terrified. Hades said, do not answer. That frightened him more. Hades asked the examiner to remove the clasp instead. It came free without triggering the throat mark. Inside the metal, a routing sigil pointed to a relay station outside Aurea territory. The judges had enough. The chapel became a formal crime scene. Kaito stood under the broken seal, while officials photographed the altar his family had once maintained. My father will say, I let you turn our match into a prosecution. Hades looked at the cracked floor. Did you? Kaito did not answer. The prisoner was moved to a neutral medical ward. Adam went with him until the transport gate closed. When he returned, Kaito was waiting. You cost us the stage. Adam looked confused. The judges awarded no objective because the field was compromised, Kaito said. We lose the advantage my family built into the second stage. Good. Kaito's hand moved toward his sword. Adam did not react. Kaito stopped himself. You are infuriating. I have been told. You protected someone who came to kill you. No, I protected a prisoner. Same person. Different moment. That answer followed Kaito into the transition chamber. The third stage waited beyond the door. Volcanic ridge, open sky, heat, and no hidden chapel to crawl beneath. Kaito's peerage gathered around him. Corvin had a bandage around one wrist. His queen was wet to the knees. Two pawns had minor burns from the holy water. Everyone looked tired. Kaito had prepared a speech. He did not give it. Instead, he said, if anyone sees foreign marks, you stop. One pawn blinked. My lord. You stop, you report it. You do not wait for me to confirm. The queen watched him carefully. Even if it costs the objective. Kaito looked toward the door. Especially then. No one praised him. That helped. Across the hall, Hades checked Adam's shoulder where one light spear had grazed him. It is nothing. Nothing is easy to ignore until it becomes expensive. Adam smiled. You sound like Merek. That is an insult. To Merek. To me. The transition signal sounded. The ridge formed. Kaito stepped into the heat with a different problem than the one he had entered the forest carrying. Winning still mattered, but now every order would be judged against the moment he had told his own people they could stop. Hades noticed. So did the audience. That made the third stage more dangerous than the first two combined. Chapter 22. The Young Lord Breaks. The volcanic ridge punished hesitation. Lava cut the field into narrow bridges, while ash blinded the audience crystals. Hades retired a charging rook with the flat of his bident. Adam disarmed two knights and placed their weapons at the edge of the bridge. No one was killed. That restraint enraged Kaito more than a defeat would have. "Stop handling us like children," he shouted. Silver hawks filled the sky. Their wings carried enough force to split the ridge. Hades raised one hand, and the entire flock broke into harmless sparks against his aura. For a heartbeat, the crowd saw the difference between Kaito's power and Hades' control. "All this time," Kaito said, "you were letting us move." "No." He ordered every remaining piece to attack. None moved. The refusal was quiet. It carried farther than Kaito's command. He looked from her to the peerage and saw not betrayal, but a boundary he had never bothered to ask about. The king's crest on his hand burned as he tried to force the order through it. The game barrier rejected him. A king could command the match. He could not command another person's conscience. Hades lowered his weapon. "You can still withdraw without making this worse." Kaito's eyes flashed. "You want me to kneel? I want you to stop making your people prove that they are people." The stage continued because Kaito had not conceded. Hades crossed the lava without rushing. The young lord attacked with a broken formation and no audience left to impress. Hades blocked him, disarmed him, and stopped the bident a breath from his throat. "The next stage," Kaito said. Hades stepped back. "Then learn before it begins." Rain gathered on the roof above the Blackstone Infirmary, while the healers found that the arena's damage had followed the evacuation route. Hades found a healer's tally beside the stove and carried it to the table, where Adam was already waiting with a cup that had gone cold. The refusal did not end when the stage dissolved. Kaito's remaining pieces followed him into the transition chamber and stopped 3 steps inside. No one sat. No one reached for water. The queen closed the door. Kaito turned. "Speak." Corvin did. "We will continue." Kaito waited, but not under forced commands. The king's crest on Kaito's hand burned faintly. "I did not force you." The queen looked at the mark. "You tried." The words were quiet. They landed harder than a shout. Kaito stared at his own hand. The game barrier had rejected the order before it could become compulsion, but everyone in the chamber had felt him push through the crest. It had been instinctive, angry, a king's authority reaching for obedience because persuasion had failed. Kaito closed his fingers over the mark. "I was losing." Corvin said, "Yes." "Not asterisk, we asterisk." "I." Kaito noticed. "Do you want to withdraw?" No one answered immediately. The silence frightened him more than Hades ever had. Then the queen stepped forward. "I want to finish." Kaito looked at her. "I want to know whether you can finish without making us prove we are loyal by letting you hurt us." His face went cold. "You think I would? I think you already tried." There was no clean defense. Kaito looked around the room. A pawn with a burned sleeve. Corvin holding his sword with the grip newly freed of the old command mark. A bishop whose left wing had been clipped by Silver Flame because she followed a formation after it stopped making sense. He remembered the children's ward. Read what it feeds. He sat down. Everyone stared. Kaito took the king's peace case from his belt and placed it on the floor. I do not know how to do this. His queen's expression changed. No one had expected that sentence. Kaito looked at her. I know how to give orders. I know how to win formations. I know how to perform confidence until other people become embarrassed to doubt me. He looked toward the door leading to the city stage. I do not know how to be a king after everyone sees me fail. Corvin lowered his sword. Then perhaps start there. Kaito laughed once, without humor. That sounds like something Hades would say. No, Corvin replied. He would make it shorter. Someone at the back of the room snorted. The sound broke the pressure. Kaito looked at the stage plan. City maze. Multiple civilian constructs. Buildings that could be destroyed for faster routes. A throne objective at the center. The original strategy had been simple. Burn lanes, force Hades to choose between speed and preservation, use the audience's impatience against him. Kaito took a marker and placed it on the first route. Then he handed it to the queen. What would you do? She did not touch it. Are you asking or testing me? Asking. She moved the marker. Do not burn the western block. It costs us 6 minutes. It also keeps our own retreat open. Kaito looked at Corvin. Your route. Corvin moved a second marker through the narrow North Street. Too slow, Kaito said automatically. Corvin waited. Kaito exhaled. Explain. For the next half hour, the peerage built a plan together. It was not elegant. 3 people disagreed over the city objective. The bishop wanted to preserve a healing route. One pawn argued that the simulated civilians were not real and should not dictate tactics. Another replied that the audience would learn from what they chose anyway. Kaito listened. Not perfectly. Twice he interrupted. Once the queen told him to stop. He stopped. When the signal sounded, he stood. No speech. Just one instruction. If the plan becomes wrong, change it. The door opened. Across the city stage, Hades saw the Aurea formation spread differently than before. Adam noticed, too. They learned. Some. Kaito raised his sword. The city came alive. Silver fire sealed 2 streets, but not the western block. Corvin's knights moved through the north route instead of charging the obvious center. The queen stayed behind the main line long enough to protect the bishop's retreat. Hades smiled slightly. Kaito saw it. Do not look pleased. You finally brought a problem. Kaito attacked. This time, the exchange was different. He did not throw power at Hades to prove he had power. He used corners, reflections, narrow streets that constrained the Biden's reach. He retreated before the counterattack and forced Hades to choose whether to pursue through a simulated residential block. Hades did not. Kaito gained 6 seconds. The audience roared. For once, Kaito did not look toward them. He used the time. Adam met Corvin in the northern street. Neither man repeated the exhibition. Corvin changed his first step. Adam changed his response. The fight lasted long enough for both to smile. At the healing route, one Aurea pawn made the wrong choice. A collapsing wall threatened 2 simulated civilians. The pawn could preserve the lane or save them. He looked toward Kaito. Kaito saw him. The old version of himself would have shouted for the lane. He said nothing. The pawn broke formation and pulled the civilians clear. They lost the route. Kaito's queen glanced at him. He nodded once. The city became harder to win. It also became the first stage in which House Aurea looked like people rather than pieces. Hades reached the central square later than the commentators predicted. Kaito was waiting on the throne. He looked exhausted. He also looked more dangerous. You are late, he said. You stopped wasting your people. Do not sound proud. I am not your father. The line cut deeper than either expected. Kaito stood. The city around them still burned in narrow, controlled lines. No one had destroyed the Western Bloc. The pawn who abandoned formation was still active. The Queen's healing route remained open. Kaito lifted his sword, then stopped teaching. Hades lowered the bident. Make me. For the first time in the wager, Kaito attacked because he wanted to win the fight in front of him, not the story around it. The difference was visible in every step. Chapter 23. The city that survived the match. He trapped the streets behind walls of silver flame and ran for the throne objective. Hades and Adam could have cut through the city, but they walked the open route instead, dismantling each trap so the simulated buildings remained standing. People who watch us will remember what we choose when destroying the obstacle is easier. They reached the central square. Kaito sat on the throne with his sword across his knees. Take it, he said. Take my family's land. The final field remains. Knowing defeat is not the same as meeting it. Kaito stood. For the first time, he held his blade without posing for the crowd. The attack that followed was clean. He used the city's corners, the reflected light, and the narrow gap between two towers. Hades blocked 3 strikes and saw the warrior Kaito might have become if pride had not demanded his attention every second. On the 4th exchange, Hades knocked the sword away and touched the bident to Kaito's chest. He did not count the victory. The city objective still belonged to the challenger until the referee confirmed the transfer. Kaito looked at the intact buildings behind Hades. You could have destroyed everything. Then the victory would have belonged to my strength and not my judgment. The referee called the objective for Hades. The final field formed beyond the city, white stone without cover. Kaito retrieved his weapon and faced the open ground. One more exchange, he said. One honest one. This time Kaito nodded before the arena changed. The hearing in the challenger's command room had 12 chairs and only 11 people. The missing chair belonged to the worker whose name had been removed from the first account after an enemy map showed that someone inside the house had copied the patrols. Hades placed an enemy route map on the empty seat. The gesture angered the oldest delegate, who demanded that a symbol not be mistaken for evidence. Chapter 24. The door to the top 100. The final field contained 2 thrones and no cover. Kaito entered alone. Hades sent Adam to secure their own throne and crossed the white stone between them. One strike, Kaito said. Do not insult me with another lesson. Hades lowered his bident, then stand as a king. The attack fell. Hades thrust upward. Divine force pierced the hawk's center and divided it cleanly. The shockwave stripped clouds from the full sky. Kaito's armor cracked, but Hades stopped the point against his breastbone. The young lord remained standing for a breath. Then his knees struck stone. Why spare me? Because death would let you escape the work of becoming better. The referee began the count. As the final second approached, the ranking display shifted. Hades' next confirmed victory would open the top 100. I concede, he said. The ranking display shifted. The wager seal tore free of Kaito's hand and crossed the field toward Hades. It arrived as a deed, a map, and a river of cold power beneath the skin. The announcer confirmed the transfer and the opening of the top 100 ranking. Hades accepted the legal seal, but did not raise it toward the crowd. Kaito stayed on his knees until Hades offered a hand. After a long pause, he took it. You were right about one thing, Kaito said. I wanted the audience to see me. They did. What do I do now? The final field dissolved. The victory had ended the wager. The consequences were only beginning. The transfer seal did not wait for Kaito to leave the field. It split into hundreds of smaller marks and began migrating through the legal structure of House Oria's mana pool territory. Gates, pumps, warehouses, worker contracts, road tolls, old obligations, and land records. Merek nearly fainted when he saw the first stack. Victory should not generate this much paper. Meles looked at him with something approaching pity. You won territory. Hades won territory. You are his steward. Merek looked betrayed by grammar. Kaito remained in the medical room while his armor was cut away. Hades found him there after the first transfer conference. The young lord had a bruise across his chest where the Bident had stopped, and nothing else serious enough to justify the healer's insistence that he remain seated. You came to explain what I learned. No. Good, I would have thrown something. Hades placed a folded document on the bed. Kaito opened it. Protected residence. House Oria's cemetery, archive wing, and private family chambers would remain under the family's use during the transfer review. No worker could be removed from housing until a new contract was offered and independently witnessed. Existing medical obligations would continue regardless of ownership disputes. Kaito read the last line. You wrote this before the final stage. Yes. You expected to win. I planned for both outcomes. What was the version if you lost? Hades handed him another page. Kaito stared. In the losing version, the shrine's residents would receive 3 months of wages, relocation options, and legal help, challenging any sponsor House Oria attempted to impose. You planned to lose. I planned for people to survive me losing. Kaito looked away. That is infuriating. So I have been told. The door opened. Kaito's queen entered with Corvin behind her. They stopped when they saw Hades. Kaito held up the transfer document. He planned our defeat better than I planned our victory. The queen took the page. No. Kaito looked at her. He planned the consequences. Corvin stood near the wall, arm bandaged. Hades asked, will your peerage remain with you? Kaito's expression hardened automatically. Then he caught himself. He looked at them instead. Will you? The queen answered first. Yes. Corvin nodded. The question had changed the room. Kaito looked almost embarrassed by the relief. Hades turned to leave. Wait. He stopped. Kaito held the document. What happens to my rank? You lost. I am aware. Then it falls. How far? Enough that you will have to earn the next room. Kaito laughed, despite himself. That sounds like you. No, that sounds like the registry. Hades left him with that. The transfer conference began at dawn. The patriarch arrived furious. Workers arrived afraid. Creditors arrived cheerful. Hades distrusted the third group most. The mana pool had been used as collateral in agreements that never appeared in the wager. Some were legitimate. Others depended on House Oria remaining too proud to admit how badly the accounts had been managed. Kaito entered halfway through the hearing. His father turned on him. You have no standing here. Kaito placed his former king's seal on the table. I signed the wager. You lost the authority to speak for this house. Then I will speak as the person who caused the transfer. The patriarch went silent. Hades did not rescue Kaito from the moment. Kaito opened the worker liability ledger. The children's ward stays funded. One creditor objected. Kaito looked at him. The water debt on the western terrace is false. Another creditor objected. Kaito turned the page. The training arena receives no payment until the pumps are repaired. His father rose. You are surrendering assets you no longer control. Kaito looked at him. No, I am identifying which assets were never ours in the way you taught me to believe. The room changed. Hades watched without interrupting. This was not redemption. Kaito was still arrogant, still angry, still capable of confusing humiliation with injustice. But he was speaking with names in the room now. Dalla sat 2 chairs away. Perrin stood behind the pump schedule. The healer from the children's ward held the barrier figures. Kaito could not return to abstraction without doing it in front of the people beneath the numbers. That was enough for one day. When the hearing ended, Hades walked outside. Adam waited on the terrace. How bad? Expensive. That is not what I asked. Hades looked back through the glass. Kaito was still arguing with his father. Better. Adam followed his gaze. Do you think he will become a good king? He is not a king. You know what I mean. Hades considered. No. Adam raised a brow. I think he may become a better man. That is harder. They walked toward the mana pool. The transfer seal glowed across the valley. Workers watched it with suspicion. Hades understood. A different name on a deed did not make the water safer. So before he touched the pool's central authority stone, he asked Dalla to stand beside him. She looked horrified. Why me? You know where the first dry house is. That does not make me a ruler. Good. He placed his hand on the stone. The legal bond opened. Cold mana rushed through him. The territory waited for instruction. Hades did not claim the highest tower. He redirected the first restored current toward the western pumps. Far across the valley, a dry pipe shuddered. Water struck a basin. Dalla heard it through the relay crystal. Her face changed. The crowd did not cheer. The workers listened. One pipe, then another, then another. Hades looked over the valley. He had won. Only now did the victory begin to become real. Chapter 25, Top 100, Poseidon. King Kaito is defeated, the referee announced. The wager seal tore free of Kaito's hand and crossed the field. It settled into Hades' palm as a deed, a map, and a river of cold mana felt through the bones. Rank threshold crossed, top 100. Reward unlocked, Poseidon. The arena darkened. Seawater spread across the white stone without wetting it, and the sound of a deep ocean swallowed the crowd. A man with pale hair emerged from the impossible tide, carrying a trident. Poseidon looked first at Hades. His contemptuous stillness broke by a fraction. Brother. Hades met him halfway. You are far from our sea. Then this world should have chosen a better shore. Adam approached, relaxed but ready. Poseidon's eyes moved over him with open disdain. A human. The first one, Adam said. You must be the difficult brother. The arena held its breath. Hades stepped between them before pride became a battle. You are both mine to protect, and neither is beneath the other in my house. He offered Poseidon a night peace. Join me. Keep your name, your pride, and your judgment. Give me loyalty in return. Poseidon accepted the peace without looking away from Adam. Crimson light flared around the trident and vanished. House Auria's patriarch pushed past the officials. That pool is the foundation of my family. Hades turned with 2 divine warriors at his back. Then you should not have signed it away. The patriarch stopped. Later, Hades stood at the mana pool's edge while legal seals transferred across the valley. Cold blue light rose from terraces cut into black stone. Fallen angel siphons pulsed beneath the water, waiting to be severed. Poseidon surveyed the estate. Adam offered him an apple. Poseidon stared at it. "Is this an insult?" "Not yet," Adam said. The legal transfer did not feel like celebration. It felt like a valley holding its breath, while old ownership peeled away from every stone, pump, servant contract, and warded gate. Poseidon walked the pool's edge without asking permission from the water or the devils who had once claimed it. The surface stilled where his shadow touched it. Workers stepped back until Hades raised one hand and made fear stop spreading. Hades said, "They are under my protection now." Poseidon's eyes flicked toward the workers with open contempt. Then they should become less fragile. Adam bit into his apple. Most people start that way. The air chilled. Hades let the silence sharpen, then cut it before pride could draw blood. "In my house, strength protects what is weaker until it can stand. You will not mistake contempt for law." Poseidon accepted the correction because it came from Hades, not because he approved of it. That difference mattered. Adam noticed and wisely chose not to smile. At sunset, the patriarch tried to stop the transfer with a storm of emergency petitions. Merek answered with signed copies, judge seals, and Kaito's own spoken wager preserved in crystal. Hades stood behind the paperwork with Poseidon and Adam at his sides, making every legal sentence feel armed. Chapter 26. The Sea God Enters the Estate. Poseidon rejected 3 rooms before choosing one overlooking the pool. "The first smelled of devils," he said. "The second was beside the kitchen. The third had curtains." Adam leaned against the doorframe. Terrible hardships. Hades assigned Poseidon responsibility for the waterways before either brother could escalate. The hidden siphons ran through submerged tunnels, and no one understood currents better. At the lowest terrace, Poseidon stepped onto the water as if it were glass. His trident traced the flow beneath the surface. 7 foreign channels, 2 dormant, 5 active. Fallen light burst from the nearest conduit. Poseidon moved once. The trident divided the attack into harmless ribbons and pinned the siphon mouth shut. Workers watching from shore forgot to breathe. "Do not enter the water until I have cleaned it," Poseidon told them. It sounded like contempt. Hades heard the protection beneath it. Hades called the workers by name and asked which channels supplied their homes. Poseidon listened, visibly irritated, while a woman named Dalla explained that the western pumps had failed years before and 3 families still carried debts for water they never received. "Those accounts are false," Poseidon said. "They are signed," Merek replied. Poseidon looked at Hades, then drowned the signatures. "We erase the debts first." Poseidon's mouth tightened. He raised the trident again and redirected the current toward the abandoned western pumps. Water moved through the pipes. The first dry house heard a tap strike the basin. Adam smiled. Poseidon noticed. "Do not make that face. You fixed a roof with a trident. I corrected a flow." Hades marked the correction on the territory map. Winning the pool had been a legal act. Making it answer to the people living around it would take choices no deed could make for him. Poseidon cleaned the submerged tunnels by treating them like an insult. He refused assistance for the first hour. That decision lasted until the 3rd conduit split under pressure and sent a ribbon of fallen light across the lower channel. Hades caught it on the bident. Adam dragged 2 workers behind a stone brace. Poseidon stared at the crack. "I had it." "You had most of it," Adam said. Poseidon's eyes narrowed. "Human. Brother's queen. Still human. Still correct." The tunnel became cold enough for the workers' breath to fog. Hades stepped between them before the argument became weather. "Poseidon." The sea god looked away first. It was not surrender, it was family arithmetic. They changed the plan. Poseidon remained in the water, but the workers controlled the tunnel gates. Dalla called flow rates from the upper platform. Merek tracked which homes depended on each channel. Adam stood where he could reach the workers if a conduit failed. Hades watched the whole system. The first active siphon collapsed cleanly. The second had roots. Not literal ones. Contract threads extended from the pipe into 3 worker debts, an abandoned shrine, and a warehouse that had been collecting maintenance fees long after the original pumps stopped. Beelzebub had not yet joined them. So Poseidon did what Poseidon understood. He grabbed the current. The entire tunnel shook. "Do not," Hades said.